In this session, we are going to continue exactly where we left off in the previous one, and I am going to show you how to customize your own asset import. We are working with a PBR workflow here, and inside the NRG sandbox package, you might have already noticed that you have an asset that we didn't use at the moment that is called tank. And tank come with a bunch of texture for the base color, the surface, the normal, emissive. And so far, the way we have been dealing with PBR material in the sandbox is strictly on a value basis. We have set manually the base color, we have set manually the roughness and metallic value, but this time they are coming from a texture. So what we need to do is to start creating our workflow, our process, our integration process to import that kind of asset into the NRG sandbox. And of course, based on the project and the type of project that you're doing, this workflow might change, but I will show you how to do it the way it is basically anticipated from the sandbox. And after that, you can tweak it the way you like based on your requirements. So to get us started, we are going to go in edit mode on second render layer, and we're going to inspect our floor material here, since it's the closest one that we have by default in our scene that contain a texture and a base color texture and a normal map. I am going to go under properties and material and inspect that textured material. And I can see that this material is also connected to the set uniform script, just like any other object here. So I'm going to need to have that connected while importing my asset. Under shader, this is the specific shader for this material here, the floor. So I'm having on the sampler slot, I'm having my 2Q map for radiance and irradiance. I am having a shadow map, and I'm having my checker base color and my checker normal that are set here. And when I'm importing that in NRG Tank, I need to make sure that I'm respecting that same process, since we are going to basically copy the textured shader, and for the tank material that is going to be imported, we are going to tweak that shader accordingly. So we are going to create a new PBR shader that is able to handle not only the base color and normal, but also the surface, roughness and metallic value, and emissive. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go at our base, and we're going to go under sandbox and materials, and I am going to duplicate my textured shader here. And based on your requirements, you might want to create more as well, but for this demonstration, that will do. I am going to then drag and drop my PBR shader onto my root here. So now I have the PBR shader created, duplicated, and it's already handling base, color, and normal. So a bit of tweak in the code, and we're going to be able to handle surface and emissive. So we are going to go under library, asset, and import, and we are going to go search our tank.dae. Open up, and I'm going to import the geometry as it is. I'm going to toggle that off to ensure that all the assets will be placed at my root here. Material, this time I am going to import the material because I'm going to create a custom preset for that specific material. Animation, I do not have animation on this one. Skeletons, no skeletons. Visual scene, I am going to make sure that it is on right depth and geometry to get us started. I'm going to go under material before I click the import button, and under preset, I am going to create a preset for that specific type of asset. I already have a video about preset more specifically. You can check it out, to have more information. But basically what it does is at import time, a preset will analyze the name of the material. And if a specific identifier is found in the name of that material, it will apply the following preset. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new preset that we're going to call PBR. And the identifier as the material name that is held in the DAE file. This tank was actually used in the NRG station, that was a prop in the NRG station. So basically the name of all these materials are basically something like prop underscore. So this is what our importer is going to look for as the material name, the prop underscore. And as the shader, we are going to connect our newly created PBR shader that give us a boost by having also already the base color and normal handled in code. And as a script, since each and every material are connected to the uniform that is going to send us, as I was explaining in the previous video, the sun position, the sun direction, the camera position, and so on. We are going to connect that as well. So our new material will also have a new thread created with the set uniform script already assigned. Now, for our sampler, if we take reference as our textured material here, since that shader is expecting those input, those sampler input, we are going to reproduce that. To change the type of asset that you want to link to the preset, simply hold Shift and then click. We have two cube map here, so I hold Shift and press twice to access the cube map, and I'm going to go search. I'm going to go reproduce basically what I'm having here. I am having the irradiance that is set here. Once again, another cube map. I am going to click on radiance this time. The next one in line will be the shadow map, which is a texture. So I'm going to hold Shift and have access to my texture, and I'm going to type in shadow or shadow map. And now this is the interesting part. We are going to use basically substring to determine what type of texture we should be importing. Like if you check the NRGsandbox folder, you're going to see that it's going to be tank underscore base color, tank underscore normal, and so on. So our texture identifier will be base color. That will be placed in sampler slot number 3. Normal will be placed in number 4. And we are having 2 extra here. So we're having surface here that is going to go in number 5. And we're having finally emissive that is going to be in sampler 6. So the importer will analyze what is the first texture that is assigned, most likely the diffuse texture, and then extract that name and then append those identifier here and load the texture, import the texture, and place it at the good sampler slot. We're going to click import this time, and if everything goes well, as it did, we have everything loaded here. We are having our NRG tank that is here, and we're having base color, normal, emissive, and surface. And if we go have a closer look to that tank, here I am going to switch to render. I'm going to move it a bit on the side and lift it up. I think I'm going to scale it a bit too because it's a bit small. I'm going to go under properties object, and I'm going to set it to something like 2. To have a better view. And you can see that right away, since we're having our duplicated PBR shader, we are handling right off the bat, we're handling the base color and the normal map. Now there's a few tweaks that we need to do. We need to make sure that this object can cast shadow. So with the object selected, I'm going to go under properties and static mesh, because it is a static mesh. Under right depth, I am going to select the right depth. I'm going to copy that name because I'm going to need it in a moment. I'm going to type right depth. So right away, I'm going to be able to cast shadow. And under geometry, I am going to assign my prop NRG tank that it's already there. Now, the next step, if we are inspecting our NRG tank, we can see that our script has been connected. We have our PBR shader. And all the assets that we have specified in the preset are there, plus our extra here, the surface and the emissive. Now, if we want to get the full scope of these texture data that is there, we're going to jump into coding, and we are going to go select our PBR shader here. And I'm going to jump over the fragment shader here, and I'm going to add my new let's select it here to have a better look at it. We have now in sampler number 5, we are now having the surface. And in sampler number 6, we are having the emissive. Now let's jump to the main function, and we're going to do a simple replacement here. After we calculate here, we are going to first disable the base color, as we're going to use fully the texture. We're going to comment the roughness, and we're going to comment the metallic value as well, as they're going to come from a texture. Next, here, I'm going to go over and start creating a new variable, low p vector 4, and I'm going to call it surface texture 2D sampler number 5, which is our surface texture coord 0, and now I have my surface here. Now I am going to remove that base color because I don't need it anymore, and I'm going to create two new variables for my metallic and roughness that I'm going to extract from my surface. Low p float metallic, and it is surface. It is placed in the B channel, in the blue channel for metallic, and for roughness it is placed on the green channel. So now with very little change, I'm extracting the roughness and metallic value from my surface texture here and pass it down to the rest of my shader just the way it was done in the floor texture shader here. One more thing, we need to handle our emissive surfaces here. So at the end here of the result, I am going to plus texture 2D, sampler 6 this time, texture coordinate 0, RGB, and I'm going to make it slightly more bright just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to put it at 5. I'm going to multiply that color by 5. If now I build my shader, as you can see right away, we can see some drastic change. Let me first increase the application time and jump over, and I have my tank with full PBR material that is integrated in my scene, casting shadow, and have been fully customized. Now, every time you're going to import an object that have the identifier _prop, it will use that preset that you have created. So when you're creating your preset, ensure of the type of material that have been created using your 3D creation software, regardless if it is Blender or Maya, or every time as you export a DAE, the material identifier will be exported as well. So depending on the type of material and based on the type of surface your assets are trying to handle, you might create one or more preset that are based on specific values depending on what you're doing. And this is how you fully customize an asset and place it inside the NRG sandbox.